Welcome to the deep dive. We take your pile of sources, all that research, and we try to pull out the most vital insights for you.
Yeah, makes sense of the pile.
Exactly. And today, well, we're diving into something pretty complex, fascinating too. Private military companies, PMCs, in South Africa. So we've got the research, articles, your notes. Our mission is really to unpack how these groups started, what they do, and, how much influence they actually have. These organizations can be pretty shadowy.
They really can.
Expect some surprising facts, I think, and hopefully a much deeper understanding of this whole industry. It really blurs the lines, doesn't it, between national security and just private business.
It absolutely does. And we're looking at everything from, Cold War tactics right up to modern drone warfare. It's quite a story how South Africa became this major hub for private military expertise.
A global hub, yeah.
And we'll explore what that actually means for South Africa itself, its stability, but also for conflicts, all over the world.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning then. To really get this, how did South Africa even become such a big player in the PMC world, it seems? Well, almost backwards, right? Especially coming out of apartheid.
It does seem counterintuitive, but it's actually quite remarkable when you dig into it. The roots are right there in the immediate post-apartheid period.
After 94.
Exactly. After 1994, you had thousands of highly skilled military personnel suddenly demobilized.
Ah.
You had veterans from the old SADF, the Apartheid-era Defense Force, but also fighters from the ANC-aligned groups, all of them suddenly needing work.
Okay.
And this created this unique concentration of talent, highly trained people. That pool basically birthed this whole new industry.
And we're not just talking about regular infantry here, are we? The sources point to some really specialized units.
No, absolutely not.
Like the Civil Cooperation Bureau, the CCB, that covert dirty tricks unit.
Yep, the CCB.
And the 32 Battalion, the Buffalo Battalion, known for counterinsurgency. And the RECIs, the Reconnaissance Commandos, legendary special forces.
Exactly. These were the guys with serious skills in asymmetric warfare, covert ops, the really specialized stuff.
Right. So the people founding the key PMCs, like Executive Outcomes, EO, they came directly from that background.
Directly. Even Barlow, who founded EO, he was a former lieutenant colonel in the SADF's CCB.
Ah.
And EO then actively recruited veterans from those exact units we just mentioned, the ones that were being dissolved.
And EO, Executive Outcomes, they made a name for themselves very quickly, didn't they? I remember reading about Angola and Sierra Leone.
They certainly did. Their impact was pretty immediate and pretty significant. In Angola back in '93, they got a contract from President Dos Santos to fight UNITA rebels. And they famously took back the Soya oil facilities. That was huge.
Critical infrastructure.
Absolutely. Then Sierra Leone, 1995. Hired for, estimates say, around $35 million.
Wow.
Yeah, and apparently funded through mineral concessions to fight the RUF rebels.
The RUF, notorious group.
Very. And EO was effective. They helped push the RUF towards peace talks, especially after retaking diamond areas like Koidu.
So it really shows how these private groups were stepping into, well, gaps, security vacuums left by states.
Precisely. Where conventional forces were maybe struggling or just weren't present, these guys filled that void.
Okay, so you've got these private armies making waves internationally. The South African government back home, they must have taken notice, surely. How did they try and, regulate this?
That's a really critical point, and South Africa was actually quite ahead of the curve legislatively speaking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they passed the Regulation of Foreign Military Assistance Act, the RFMAA, way back in 1998.
Okay.
And the specific goal was to curb mercenary activity. It meant companies needed government approval for any military assistance operations abroad.
But I bet it wasn't that simple. Loopholes.
Exactly. As the sources point out, critics immediately flagged loopholes. PMCs quickly started rebranding, calling themselves security consultancies, like Omega Risk Solutions is one name that comes up, just to get around the law.
The old rebrand trick.
Pretty much. So that led to another law, tougher one. The Prohibition of Mercenary Activities Act in 2006.
Right.
And this one broadened the definitions quite a bit, covered indirect military support too, basically criminalizing any unauthorized PMC work.
Okay, so broader definitions, tougher laws. Did that actually fix the problem?
Well, enforcement remained a real challenge. You still had high-profile cases, like Simon Mann, jailed for that coup plot in Equatorial Guinea in 2004, the Wanga coup.
I remember that.
And the Mercenary 55, those ex-SADF guys, arrested in Zimbabwe on their way to the same coup attempt.
Right. So still happening.
It's still happening. And plus, you saw firms just adapting again, like Dick Advisory Group, Dad is just registered offshore, Mozambique, Seychelles, basically avoiding South African oversight altogether.
Fascinating how they adapt. Okay, so let's fast forward. What do these PMCs look like today? Are they still mainly focused internationally, or is it more about domestic security now in South Africa?
It's really both. And the scale of the domestic side is, well, it's kind of staggering.
How so?
South Africa's private security sector is the biggest in Africa and globally. It's the fourth largest.
Fourth largest in the world. Wow.
Yeah, employing over 2.7 million registered guards.
2.7 million.
Million. Now, compare that to the actual South African Army, the SANDF. They've got about 75,000 active personnel.
That's a huge difference.
It's massive. It's a $2.3 billion a year industry domestically, and it's filling this enormous gap, right? In a country with very high crime rates, unemployment near 33%. Private security steps in.
So they're not just, fighting distant wars anymore. They are the main security providers at home for big businesses, mines, wealthy areas.
That's exactly it. You've got firms like Securo, MSS, guarding platinum and gold mines.
Which are vital for the economy.
Hugely vital, yeah, like 7% of GDP vital.
Yeah.
So this isn't just small-time stuff. And then internationally, their reach is still very much there. Extensive foreign links.
Like with Western countries.
Yeah, absolutely. You see South African PMCs working with Western interests. Triple Canopy, which is now part of Constellus, bought a South African PMC called SafeNet back in 2008.
For what purpose?
For U.S. logistics support in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Then there's Erinys International. They guarded Iraqi oil pipelines. Big U.S. Army contract, $100 million, from 2003 to 2008.
Okay, so deep ties there. And beyond the West. Even further afield.
Oh, yes. Middle East partnerships are significant. Paramount Group, for example, supplies armored vehicles, like their M-Bomb-4.
Right, I've heard of those.
To UAE forces operating in Yemen. G4S South Africa has trained Saudi Royal Guard units. And there are even documented links, or at least recruitment efforts, involving Russian groups like Wagner. Reports suggest they recruited South African veterans for ops in places like CIR and Mozambique.
Wow. And it's not just boots on the ground anymore, is it? The sources highlight this integration with modern tech drones' cyber capabilities.
You're absolutely right. That's a critical evolution. Look at Milcor, based near Pretoria.
The drone manufacturer.
Yeah, known for their big Milcor 380 combat drones. They've seen action in Mozambique, Yemen. They've even co-developed suicide drones with the UAE's Edge Group.
Suicide drones? Wow.
And on the cyber side, you have companies like Dark Matter Group, which has South African links, providing sophisticated cyber intelligence training to Gulf states. It's a high-tech industry now, too.
So, okay, we've talked about this massive scale, the global reach, the tech. Inevitably, this must bring up some serious controversies, some big ethical questions.
Oh, absolutely. That's a really important aspect to consider. And accountability is probably the biggest one.
How so?
Well, unlike state militaries, PMCs aren't really democratically accountable, are they?
No, not in the same way.
Which creates potential for things like human rights abuses or corruption to happen with less oversight. Dick Advisory Group, D, for example, faced accusations from Amnesty International in 2021.
What were the accusations?
Indiscriminate attacks, killing civilians during operations in Mozambique's Montepuez region.
Right. And didn't Executive Outcomes face similar accusations way back in Angola?
They did, yes. Allegations of massacres in Londe Norte province in 1994. Though it's important to note, no formal investigations ever really took place.
I see.
And the UN's Working Group on Mercenaries has repeatedly criticized South Africa for what they see as lax enforcement of its own PMC laws.
So beyond direct actions, there's this broader issue, isn't there, about undermining the state itself, undermining sovereignty, especially maybe for less stable countries, or even, like the sources mention, hypothetical situations like that Cape Independence idea.
Yeah, if you step back and look at the bigger picture, PMCs at the end of the day work for profit.
Right. Not necessarily national interest.
Exactly. So if they become too powerful, too influential, could they start dictating security policy? Or, like the source material suggests, could they contribute to creating an unstable militarized region if, say, they were hired to enforce security for an independent Cape?
A sort of state within a state, almost?
Potentially. And there's also the risk of just deepening social divides. If good security becomes something only the rich or corporations can afford, what does that do to inequality?
That's a really sobering thought. Okay, let's shift slightly, but stay with the legacy aspect. One of the most striking things in the sources is the racial makeup of these companies and how it links straight back to the apartheid era.
Yes, that is. Well, it's a fascinating and, frankly, uncomfortable legacy. Because despite all the efforts after apartheid to diversify institutions, like the SANDF itself, the private military sector, especially in leadership and the highly skilled roles, remains overwhelmingly white-dominated.
And that's a direct line back to apartheid.
It's a direct legacy. Because under apartheid, advanced military training, special forces training, that sort of thing, was largely restricted to white South Africans within the SADF.
Okay. So that initial skills reservoir we talked about, the one that birthed the PMCs, it was predominantly white from the start.
Precisely. Look at the founders. Eben Barlow at EO, Lionel Dyke at DAG White, ex-SADF or Rhodesian military guys.
Right.
And their core teams, often drawn from those elite, almost entirely white apartheid-era units. The Ressis, 32 Battalion, Covey.
And this continues. What about the brain drain effect? Skilled white personnel leaving the official military, the SANDF, for better paying PMC or foreign jobs, like those pilots going to the UAE.
That definitely perpetuates it. The sources mention over 300 ex-SADF pilots joined the UAE military between 2010 and 2020 alone.
Wow.
So you have this global demand for their skills, often tied to that Cold War era reputation, combined with historical advantages in accessing capital, and this sort of skills monopoly they inherited. It means the racial imbalance persists. And it really does highlight how uneven some of South Africa's post-1994 changes have been, at least in this specific sector.
So wrapping this up, we've really taken a deep dive here into this complex world of South African PMCs, from those surprising post-apartheid roots.
Yeah, surprising is right.
Their deep, enduring links to the old apartheid military units, their incredible global reach today, and these really profound ethical questions they force us to confront.
And if you connect all those dots, you know, the story of South African PMCs is such a powerful reminder. It shows how these big forces, demobilization, economic pressure, the legacy of very specific military skills, how they can all come together and create this incredibly powerful, often quite hidden player on the world stage. It really makes you rethink traditional ideas about national defense, about state sovereignty.
It really does. And I think that leaves us with a really compelling thought for you, our listener, to mull over. We live in this increasingly interconnected world, right? Where private companies can wield serious military power globally. So how do we balance that? How do we balance the demand, which clearly exists for specialized security, with the absolute necessity for democratic accountability for protecting human rights? What happens when those lines, the ones between national interest and private profit, just get dangerously blurred?
It's the crucial question, isn't it?